Last night, a certain candidate was given far less time to talk than all other candidates. This is how the debate may have gone, if they'd given Andrew time to speak.
Good evening, I'm Lester Holt, and welcome to night 2 of the first Democratic debate in the 2020 race for president.
So let's get started.
Tonight, round 2, former tech executive Andrew Yang. From NBC News, Decision 2020, the Democratic Candidates Debate. Live from the Adrian Arst Performing Arts Center in Miami, Florida.
And good evening once again. Welcome to the candidates and our spirited audience here tonight in the Arts Center and across America tonight. We continue this spirited debate about the future of the country, how to tackle our most pressing problems, and getting to the heart of the biggest issues in this Democratic primary.
Tonight we're going to talk about health care, immigration. We're also going to dive into the economy, jobs, climate change as well.
And some quick rules of the road before we begin, and they may sound familiar. The candidates will have 60 seconds to answer, 30 seconds for any follow-ups.
And because of the large field of candidates, not every person is going to be able to weigh in.
So, with that business taken care of, Senator Sanders, as you know, has been calling for a revolution. Recently, in remarks to a group of wealthy donors, as you were speaking about the problem of income inequality in this country, you said, we shouldn't, quote, demonize the rich. What did you mean by that?
So it is not like a clean issue where this is not somehow us against them. My friends in Silicon Valley are generally just people doing their own jobs, but they are Americans, they're parents, they're patriots, and some of them are on board with a plan that helps keep their greater country strong and whole, as opposed to trying to maximize every last dollar. And one of the things I say is, look, this is a better environment for progress and innovation if other people are excited about it. We need to get Americans excited about some sort of shared and collective progress again.
Governor Hickenlooper, let me get you in on this. You've warned that Democrats will lose in 2020 if they embrace socialism, as you put it. You were booed at the California Democratic Convention when you said that. Only one candidate on this stage, Senator Sanders, identifies himself as a democratic socialist. What are the policies or positions of your opponents that you think are veering towards socialism?
So I love the spirit of a federal jobs guarantee. If we could all magically have jobs that worked out and that we liked and that helped make the earth more sustainable, like that would be great. But in practice, that stuff is going to be very, very difficult and expensive and cumbersome and give rise to a whole new army of bureaucrats who measure our performance. This is a sure path to dystopia, and unfortunately, that seems to be the direction we're trending. The entire socialism-capitalism dichotomy, again, is out of date and is breaking down. We have to try and take the best of both worlds and build an economy that centers around how people are doing. Take the markets and have them allocate resources in ways that would actually help families in Main Street America.
You mentioned that many Americans are worried that things like self-driving cars, robots, drones, artificial intelligence will cost them their jobs. What would you do to help people get the skills they need to adapt to this new world?
The reason why Donald Trump won the election, there are a lot of reasons. There are a bunch of them. But one of the big ones is that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, all the swing states he needed to win. And my friends in Silicon Valley, and I've got a lot of them, know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we're now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and on through the economy. So I went to Washington and was like, hey, what are we going to do about the fact that we're in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of the country? And the answers I got were really disappointing to horrifying. And I worked in the Obama administration. I was a presidential, or as I call it, the good White House. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the people I was talking to were Democrats. And for whatever reason, no one wanted to actually rise to this particular challenge. And so I'm running for president to help us evolve and advance to the next stage of our economy.
Let's talk about health care, and this is going to be a show of hands question. We asked a question about health care last night that spurred a lot of discussion, as you know. We're going to do it again now. Many people watching at home have health insurance of their employer. Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Yeah. All right.
I'm in the Medicare for All public option camp. Right now, we're spending twice as much on our health care to worse effects than other countries. We're spending 18% of GDP. And one of the things that is confusing about this is people are like, where are you going to get the money? which is completely incorrect. We're spending twice as much on other countries. If we channel our existing resources and negotiate lower drug prices, lower rates, we can get the access up and the prices down and make it so that the people that are struggling, it is immoral that in the richest, most advanced economy in the world, we are more stressed out about navigating our Byzantine dysfunctional healthcare system when our loved ones get sick or injured than we are actually caring for them and helping them get well.
We're going to turn to the issue of trade now, if we can. Last night, we asked the candidates on this stage to name the greatest geopolitical threat facing the U.S. 4 of them mentioned China.
So the big challenge right now in this country is this movement towards zero-sum thinking. And the zero-sum thinking goes to Hugh's question, too. It's like the American lens towards China's rise is going to be that China's rise is somehow bad for the U.S. because it's zero-sum. It's like someone else rising, we're falling. Or it's like if I hire this H-1B visa, then I didn't hire an American. That's actually the greatest challenge in America right now, is trying to get us away from the zero-sum thinking. It's a challenge between abundance mindset and scarcity is winning in this country 60-40 very easily. And we're going to have this massive challenge in the years to come because we're an aging country, and demographically, conservatism and threat resistance actually rises with age. So we have this massive demographic challenge that's actually going to make us more conservative and probably more xenophobic and hostile towards modernization and change over the next 10 to 20 years. This is going to be a very, very rocky period. And I'm hoping that my campaign can shine a light through it, and I can help bring us into the 21st century in a way that will increase people's comfort level. It's going to be a great challenge, but I will say, like, I've never felt more strongly than that this country needs a different form of leadership. Because the people that are right now going to be running are just going to be having totally different conversations while ignoring like the conversations that need to happen.
But we are going to begin this hour with Mayor Buttigieg. In the last 5 years, civil rights activists in our country have led a national debate over race and the criminal justice system. Your community of South Bend, Indiana, has recently been in uproar over an officer-involved shooting. The police force in South Bend is now 6% black in a city that is 26% black. Why has that not improved over your 2 terms as mayor?
Well, I think that's insightful in the sense that community-based policing would be much, much more effective in many, many situations, and trying to demilitarize police departments. It's like a lot of these police departments have essentially military hardware. And then so if you have military hardware and you don't really know the people you're policing, then you wind up with this very, very naturally mistrustful dynamic. I do not think that police departments need military equipment in 98% of situations, and that if they do need it, then there are other units that can assist with that. I mean, that's why these other units exist. And it's not necessarily the case that even as president, I could say every police officer in every agency is going to have a body camera. But what you can do at the federal level is you can say it is funded fully. And we're not talking about that mammoth an amount of money. We're talking about maybe several $1 billion would be enough to buy a camera for every police officer in the country. And then if you're a police department, you're literally like, well, the feds have funded this. And so we don't like the idea of cameras so much that we're going to turn down free cameras for our officers. That's going to be a very hard argument for municipal departments to make. And then if you're a citizen of that town, you're like, wait a minute, they're like literally free cameras that you guys are turning down? Like, what are you guys doing over there? So you could get significant adoption around the country if you just foot the bill. And from a public standpoint, I think we'd all accept what's a relatively trivial cost in the context of our budget to know that there's a new standard being offered for police officers around the country, which is that we expect their interactions with us to be recorded. And then if that's the new norm, then any interaction that's not recorded, then we'd look at it and say, well, what happened there? And then it becomes more and more of a standard for police officers to adopt over time.
Many Democrats are very excited by the diversity of this field, on this stage and on last night's stage, and the perspective that diversity brings to this contest and to these issues. Are you telling Democratic voters that diversity shouldn't matter when they make this decision?
Well, so I'm the son of immigrants. I understand the impulse behind identity politics, but Democrats have to know that identity politics is a very poor way to approach winning national elections, and it's a very poor way to bring our country together. We have to enact solutions that will help all Americans. And when Martin Luther King championed a guaranteed minimum income in the 60s, which is almost exactly like my freedom dividend, he didn't do it for any subset of Americans. He did it for all Americans. And that's, again, how we move the country forward.
Mayor Buttigieg, in your climate plan, if you're elected president in your first term, how is this going to help farmers impacted by climate change in the Midwest?
I think climate change is an existential threat 1A. I think it's right there next to everything I'm talking about. So I'm for a carbon tax and dividend. I'm for rejoining the Paris Accords. I'm for spending hundreds of billions of dollars on our infrastructure to make it more resilient. But I believe that the things I'm talking about are actually a precursor to addressing climate change effectively. So in this country, most people can't pay their bills, 78% paycheck to paycheck. And what happens if you can't pay your bills is you have what's called a mindset of scarcity, where like your bandwidth is constrained with just trying to I pay you and I have enough money for that. And studies have shown that a mindset of scarcity decreases your functional IQ by 13 points, or 1 standard deviation. So if you have a sneaking feeling that people in the US are getting less rational and more impulsive and susceptible to bad ideas and maybe even more hateful, we are. And the reason we are is that we've introduced pervasive financial insecurity into our society, and then people naturally start looking for people to blame. So if you go to people in that situation and you say, guys, we need to work on climate change, it's a major problem. Some of them will say to you, I cannot pay my bills. The penguins can wait in line. Now, that's not great, but that is our reality. What we have to do is we have to reverse this mindset of scarcity that has swept so many of our communities and reverse it with a mindset of abundance and possibility and optimism. And then if we go to those same people and say, we need to address climate change, they will look at their children and they will say, yeah, you're right, we need to. So by getting the economic boot off of people's throats, we're then going to be able to galvanize energy in our society to actually solve the bigger future-oriented problems. So just because I did not talk about climate change as one of my big 3, you should know that I see the freedom dividend as the biggest intermediate step we can take towards actually addressing climate change.
We want to thank our candidates. We've had 2 nights of spirited debate on a range of issues, 20 candidates in all. We want to thank all of the candidates last night.
Seriously, it takes guts to run and stick your neck out like this.
For Savannah, Jose, Chuck, and Rachel, I'm Lester Holt. Good night, everyone, from Miami.